Greetings, salutations, and welcome to Sportslook, the sports television program for the high plains of West Texas and eastern New Mexico. I'm your host, Doc Elder, and on this Thursday evening, just like a lot of establishments that serve liquid beverages, we've got ladies' night. We're going to be talking Greyhound softball. We're going to be talking Greyhound volleyball. We'll have a high school spotlight featuring Brooklyn and Dillon. I'll finish up with an overtime. But as always, I'll start out with an Eastern recap. Congratulations to two members from the Greyhound track and field squad who got first place at the West Texas Classic last weekend, Marcus Parker and Danae Bustos, and interestingly enough, they both won the 200 meters. Kind of a long weekend for Greyhound baseball. They went to Stephenville and unfortunately came back with 4 losses. Hopefully they'll bounce back this weekend against Kingsville. And congratulations to Greyhound Men's Rodeo, their best season in years. They had a 3rd place finish at the Western Texas Rodeo this past weekend. Well, that has been your Eastern recap, so we'll clear the set and we'll bring in our first guest right now. Welcome back to Sportslook, and as promised, we are going to talk Greyhound softball. And talking Greyhound softball, who better to talk Greyhound softball than the head coach herself, Katie Wilburn. Coach, welcome back to Sportslook.
Thank you. So glad to be here. I missed you last time, so I'm glad I could come this time.
Well, your assistant coach filled in very
Did she do a good job?
Yes,
good.
Exactly. You have trained her well.
Yeah,
so.
She's a great person. She's fun.
Well, Coach, now that you have been a head coach at Eastern for a while, what's the biggest thing that's changed? What was the one thing you kind of expected going in that is still absolutely the same today?
Yeah, so one thing that's changed, I think the first Sportslook I did with you, we talked about an expectation, and people didn't really have one for Eastern softball, and that to me has changed a little bit. They're kind of starting to expect us to pull out these wins that we need to get and compete, really. More than anything is to compete, and that's something that we really have been looking forward to, is competing, and we've done that, I think, is the main thing. But something that's changed, that stayed the same at least, is the camaraderie around the softball team. You know, we've got phenomenal fans. Evelyn Chambers and Charles Chambers are there every single game. And many people, a myriad of people are out there all the time. But that has been something that has stayed true from year 1 to year 3.
And one other thing, another set of loyal fans that you have, our new president and his charming wife. They are totally all in for sports.
They are. We had to move one game to a Sunday, and I said, oh, you're probably going to church. She goes, the Church of Softball. And so she was in the stands ready to go, and they've been there in the cold weather and in the nice, I mean, they've been there all the time. So it's always nice to have them as fans.
Another thing that's changed is when you came to Eastern New Mexico University, literally the phrase "get out of town by sundown" was true because your games had to be done by then.
Yes.
Now you can play under the lights.
We have lights, which is so nice for so many different reasons. We have lights, which help the girls in classes. We can go to class longer and then practice at night. And it also helps with our games. We can get better fan attendance there, and it's always fun. It's always fun to play under the lights.
Well, Coach, you talked about the fact that in games you expect to win. You have the capability of coming back. And Monday night, or Monday during the day, you had one of those comeback wins courtesy of a 2-run homer.
We did. Erica Burke, I mean, if you haven't seen her yet, you got a couple more games to get out there and watch her hit a couple more home runs. But we were down, I think, 2-1. Is that right? Yep. And came back, runner on first base. And it kind of just kept that feeling of just calmness when she's at bat. You're just, well, it'll probably happen, and it did. 2-run shot over, I think, right field, right center, pulled us ahead, and that was enough with our pitching staff that day. So,
did you recognize that she had that home run potential right from the first time you saw her, or was she a pleasant surprise?
Yeah, I didn't recruit Erica. She was here already, which was a wonderful thing to come into. And then I think her first year she hit 11 home runs. I could be misquoting, but I think she had 11. And then last year she had like 13. She's at 15 this year. So she's gradually grown on her home run record. But the power, you knew was there immediately. It's just how consistent that power could be. And this year it's just every at-bat she's got the potential to hit it over.
And this year she set the career record, she also has the individual season record.
Yeah, so she set the career record a couple weeks ago, which is so cool considering she's only been here for 3 years too. I mean, she could have had a 4th year and that record could be sky high at the moment, you know. But she set the single record, I think Monday. I think she jacked one over and she had both records in her name then.
And a game-winning home run to boot.
And a game-winning home run. Yeah, we'll take
nice.
both of them. Yeah.
And I have great pride in her because I was a left-handed hitter. She was a left-handed hitter. The difference is she's good. I wasn't. But we both swung from the same side.
That counts. Yeah.
It counts for something.
It works.
Exactly. As far as looking at the 3 years and looking at the Erica Briggs, some ladies were here. You had to recruit. What is the one thing that you've tried to recruit in those 3 years?
More than anything, it was pitching. It's been pitching. Our ERA has gone down every single year as a team and particularly as individuals. Kiana Czar is a senior of ours now, and from her sophomore year when I got her to now, her ERA is down pretty significantly. And she's done a great job. But bringing in pitchers who can back her up or even start her out has helped a ton. So that's been something that we've really worked on getting here.
Yeah, sometimes you'll find a pitcher that just has a rubber arm, as the expression goes, and can pitch every inning. But most softball pitchers need a break every now and then.
It's never bad to have a committee, you know, so, especially with the LSC. The hitters there, they're going to catch on to somebody. They will, you know, so it's nice to have a couple people. Speaking
of which, I've seen the LSC be good. I think it's historically good this year.
Oh my gosh, I was looking at stats the other day. I think we've got 5 teams batting above 300 collectively, which is insane. I mean, that's taking your worst hitter, your freshman who needs a little bit more, to your best hitter. And we've got a girl hitting in the LSC 550 right now. It's unheard of. It's unheard of. And so our hitting in the LSC is ridiculously good, which makes even good pitchers a little rocky sometimes. So.
Okay, gonna put you on the spot here. You were an LSC player.
I was.
What was your batting average?
I think my senior year was like 380 something. I don't really know.
I thought you were pretty good. Yeah,
I don't know.
Exactly.
It was something. My junior year was abysmal. So we'll take my senior year one. It was a little bit better, I think.
It's like income averaging.
Yeah,
for,
yeah.
Income tax
it got better.
Yeah, there you go. In terms of pitching, has your philosophy of what you ask your pitchers to do changed, or was what you hoped that they would do from day one what you hoped they'd do today?
I think I learned more as a coach. The talent was there. It was my fault for not bringing it always out in them. And so in the fall this year, we did a ton more drills and working on getting leg drive and arm speed and all that stuff that they had the potential of doing always. I just didn't have the drills to get them there. Or didn't think they needed it, just pitch a lot and they'll be good to go, because that's how it was at LCU. And at Tarleton, we just pitched a lot, and then I thought, well, that's not working for 2 years. Let's try something else. And we did, and I think it's worked better for us this year, and we need to continue to grow in that area still.
In terms of changes, we've talked about a number of changes that have taken place, and it occurred to me that another change, you were recruited by one athletic director, you now work for another athletic director. What do Greg and Jeff have in common? What was the difference between Jeff and Greg that you can see?
Yeah, I mean, I think Dr. Geiser gave me a phenomenal opportunity. I was 24 when I came in. Who does that? But they both have been supportive in our aspirations as a program and supportive of me as a coach. So that's very helpful to have both of them there.
And of course, and now that I think about it, I kind of tangentially talked about the fact we've got a different president, but you worked for Dr. Steve Gamble, you worked for Dr. Jeff Elwell. Similarities and differences there. Yeah,
I think Dr. Gamble was at a ton of games too, but I do think that Dr. Elwell and his wife really make the rounds. And I think they really, really enjoy it. They're in the thick of it, I swear they're yelling more than some of the kids sometimes, and you can hear them. So they're really fun to play for, in both literally and working for, playing for them.
And one thing about Dr. Gamble, on his last year, as he was going out the door, he could have been just a lame duck president and just taking a paycheck. But he came to the Greyhound Club and he said, there's one more thing I'd really like to do. And he said, the last thing I really want to do is I want to get lights for the stadium. And really says a lot about Dr. Gamble that right until the very end, he cared. He
was so supportive of it. I think we had him throw out one of the first pitches because he was so supportive of softball. Whether he was at the game or not, you know what I mean? You always, you'd come up, Katie, great game. He knew what was going on, and he was very, very good about that.
Speaking of first pitches, last year I got to throw out a first pitch, and I tried my best windmill delivery. And
you did great.
It looked really good.
I liked it. I got a picture of it. Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Please do.
Yeah.
But you know, it really is, that's one thing I've really liked about your players is they're not just here to play softball. They're here for the total educational experience. They get to know their professors.
Yeah, they're student athletes, you know, and I think that's important that we put the emphasis where it needs to be. And so we have our teacher appreciation game on Friday, actually, and so their teachers are coming out, and we appreciate everything those teachers do. You know, they're the reason that they are able to be athletes. So we try to acknowledge that every now and again.
Well, speaking of which, this led me perfectly. It was like you could read my mind.
tried, yeah.
You did a great job. You know, if you want to sideline as a psychic reader,
Yeah.
you'd be good at that. We wanted to give you a chance to talk about the fact that tomorrow and Saturday, your last 3 home games.
Yep. So Friday we have a doubleheader at 5 and 7, and then Saturday is 12 o'clock. Start time, it's our Pack the Fence, which is our one big promotion. We ask people to pull on up, you know, watch for the home run balls, but at the same time, pull your girls out. We have such a great time celebrating our seniors. We also throw out old T-shirts, not old. We have T-shirts and jerseys, older jerseys that we throw out, and hats and stuff. Vintage, there you go. Yeah, antiques. You know, good stuff to throw out to the people who get there, and we just celebrate our seniors. It's our senior day.
Well, Katie, I would like nothing better than to see you sweep the Lady Javelinas.
Me too.
What's the one thing we have to do?
We need to be on the same page. So lately we've had pitching or we've had hitting, and if we have both of those pretty good together, then we'll be good to go. I really think that.
And so one last time, we'll remind people 5 o'clock Friday.
5 and 7.
5 and 7, and then high noon on
12
Saturday.
o'clock, Pack the Fence. Yes, sir.
Well, Katie, congratulations on the success that you've had, and let's just keep going towards the Lone Star Conference Championship.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Well, that is going to wrap up our first interview segment. So what we'll do is we'll clear the set, and we'll cue up a high school spotlight right now.
Welcome back to High School Spotlight. I'm Brooklyn Beal.
And I'm Dylan Knox. This past Saturday, we caught a district baseball matchup between the Clovis Wildcats and the Monzano Monarchs.
Let's go ahead and see how the game turned out. To kick off our highlights, we're going to see a big throw down the middle from Monzano's catcher, as Ethan Boney tries to steal second for Monzano. With a perfect throw and the tag, they're able to get the out. Clovis with a big swing, and it goes right between the center and right fielder. With this swing, they're able to bring one of their players home for a run. Now we're going to see a bunt attempt from Clovis, but Ethan Boney steals again, this time to third base. And he gets there safely as Monzano's third baseman drops the ball. Now it's Monzano's turn to start moving people around as they send AJ Urquita over to second, and he's able to slide past the tag to get on base safely. Monzano now out on the field as Clovis's batter pulls the ball far left for the grounder to third. The third baseman throws it to second, and they try to turn it for a double, but the ball's thrown past the first baseman.
Kicking off my section of the highlights, Clovis is up to bat with Roman Apodaca at the plate. And he's able to hit a blooper that drops right in front of the right fielder, and that hit would be enough to pick up the RBI as Ethan Boney would score from second. Next highlight with Apodaca at second and Nick Lubera at the plate, and Lubera does his job as he hits a ground ball in between third and short, picking up an RBI of his own as Apodaca slides into home. Clovis leads 3-0. Now Monzano with the defensive highlight as Clovis's Booney hits a ground ball to the third baseman, who fumbles the ball at first, but after gaining control is able to gun out the runner at first for the third out. Now the Monarchs up to bat as the batter, who hits a grounder to the shortstop, who makes the routine play for the out. Last highlight, as Clovis's Xavier Hartman strikes out Monzano's Dylan Grube to end the game, and the Wildcats pick up the district win, 3-0. And now for your Prep Boys rankings, in the 1 spot is the Melrose Buffs at 9-1, and in the 2 spot is the Dora Coyotes at 5-2.
In Class 3A, at the number 1 spot is the Texaco Wolverines with a record of 11-1, and at the 3 spot is the Dexter Demons with a record of 8-2.
In Class 4A, at the 1 spot is the Hope Christian Huskies at 13-4, and right behind them is the Robertson Cardinals at 13-2.
In Class 5A, at the number 1 spot is Goddard with a record of 10-2, and at the 4 spot is the Belen Eagles with a record of 17-4.
In Class 6A, in the 1 spot is the Centennial Hawks at 17-3, and right behind them is the Clovis Wildcats at 17-3.
Now it's time for your prep girls rankings. In Class 1A through 3A, at the number 1 spot is the Dexter Demons with a record of 13-1. And at the 2 spot is Tularosa with a record of 9-2.
In Class 4A, in the 1 spot is the Silver Colt, and right behind them is the Bernalillo Spartans.
In Class 5A, at the number 1 spot is the Artesia Bulldogs with a record of 10-2. And in the 3 spot is Gallup with a record of 13-3.
In Class 6A, in the 1 spot is the Oñate Knights at 13-4, and in the 3 spot is the Carlsbad Cavemen at 11-6.
Thanks for tuning in to another segment of High School Spotlight.
But before we send it back over to Doc, please be sure to like our Facebook page, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more photos, updates, and highlights.
I'm Brooklyn Beal.
And I'm Dylan Knox.
And we'll see you next week.
Welcome back to Sportslook. Thanks to Dylan and Brooklyn for that high school spotlight. And speaking of Brooklyn, we've got Brooklyn's former head coach, Greyhound volleyball coach, Sia Poyer. And Coach, welcome back to Sportslook.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, Coach, it seems hard to believe, but you and I actually now go back 23 years. Wow. You were here when I came to Eastern in 1995.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it seems like it was just yesterday.
It does, and you were an assistant. Now you're all grown up, and you're the head coach.
Yeah, back when I had hair. So.
Well, Coach, obviously we're going to talk primarily volleyball, but I wanted to talk about the fact I was extremely proud of one of your daughters. She has won not just one, but she's won 2 very prestigious awards here.
Yeah, very proud of my daughter, my middle child, Malia. Writing essay contest. I can't remember all the details now, but you know, it's all from my wife. My wife is a smart one in the family. You know, she's got a nice tan and fast twitch muscles. That's all I can say about my contributions to my children. So,
well, Coach, obviously, like we said, you were the volleyball assistant coach when I came to Eastern in 1995.
Yes, sir. Went
away, became a head coach, and then came back to Eastern. And in case people are seeing you for the very first time, why did you come back to Eastern?
It's a good question. It's home. You know, we spend, my wife and I, almost 20 years here before we left to go to Georgia, my first head coaching job, and the opportunity presented itself for me to come back, and it was kind of weird coming back to replace Mike, my old boss, who gave me an opportunity, but it's home, you know, not just for me, but for Jennifer. My oldest son, Malcolm, was born here, you know, but it's a very, very unique experience for us, you know, because it's like my kids' teachers, the principals, even yourself, you know, there's this kind of a full circle thing. And I mean, my kids' teachers, we were college classmates, so just kind of scary that now they're teaching my kids, you know. But no, it's home. I mean, that's about the best way I can explain it.
In what way did your thinking about volleyball change when you became a head coach? In what way are you still the same on volleyball that you were as an assistant coach for Mike back in the 1990s?
Man, good question.
I asked the tough questions.
Yeah. I mean, I'm older, you know. Of course, going from assistant to head coach. I mean, it's just one chair over, but there's so many responsibilities that are there. I mean, especially with our program here, because it's still just the head coach and the assistants. You know, I don't have a graduate assistant. That's pretty much the staff. So we have to do everything just between the two of us. You know, when I was assistant, it feels like I had a lot more energy, a lot more freedom. Of course, I was younger, but when you're head coach, you've got to do a really good job of delegating that responsibility, and of course you're the one that has to make sure at the end of the year that the budget is balanced. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
You mentioned something that I would have completely forgotten to talk about, but I'm glad you reminded me. You had an assistant coach for a number of years named Ashley Rhodes. You got a new assistant coach this year.
Yeah. Well, I did. I had a new assistant coach last year. And then who was Evelyn Escobar, who
Yeah.
was a former player from Mike. Great young lady. But then she got an opportunity really to go on to the academy to become a border patrol, which I'm very, very happy for her. It's something that she wanted to do. So I've got a new assistant who's going to be starting in July, actually a former player also, Agatha Gibbons. She's here finishing up grad school. She was a middle blocker, all-conference middle blocker when she played for us, transferred from Nimi, but originally from the Fijian Islands, but she'll be finishing up grad school this May, and then she'll transition right into to being assistant coach.
What do you ask of your assistant? If there's one quality or one attribute that you have to have from an assistant, what would that attribute be?
Help me run practice. As you get older, it's you don't move as fast, but they really, really need to be. Of course, have a good knowledge of the sport, but help me run practice, and then just they got to have that relationship with my players. Me being a male coach in a female sport, so that really helps.
I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to see how good I am at guessing along with the head coach. Looking back at your fall campaign, what was the high point for you?
Let me see. Beating West Texas, always huge. But not just that. We got Angelo State for the second year in a row. At home, making it to the tournament. But couldn't have done it without my seniors, who, they're going to be. It's going to be hard to replace those guys because they weren't just seniors, or my team captains, leaders, and then just a lot of experience on the court. Between Brooklyn, Andrea, who was voted libero of the conference, Alexis, who's a great setter. Amanda, who I'm leaving out, who went through some injuries, but a great player. It's funny. Like I tell my team now, because we're kind of young again, and you go through that transition during the spring, just trying to figure out our team chemistry. But when you remove forward players like those guys, it'll take us a while to really figure out what kind of team that we are.
What position was the big need for you recruiting?
Middle. Every year in volleyball, we're always looking for middles. Middles replacing Brooklyn is going to be tough. But also, the libero position. Andrea was such a huge part of receive, defense. You don't just can't just find an Andrea. And we've got a young lady that's coming in. I think is going to do a good job. But she's coming in as a freshman. It'll take her a while to get there. But middles is always huge.
I was just going to ask you, has your philosophy about recruiting changed any in that regard, regarding freshmen as opposed to bringing in JUCO transfers?
No, to be honest with you, my philosophy is if they can play and if I can get them to come here to Eastern, I'm going to do my best to, for that to happen. Of course, it's always nice to have junior college kids that come in with the experience and also some maturity. But we've also had freshman kids who started as freshmen and did really well for us.
I can think of one young lady from about 27 miles away named Jasmine Gannon, who played a lot as a freshman.
Yeah, and she did an incredible job, and I was very, very happy for her that she got all that playing experience, and she actually kind of surprised me. I hope she's not watching.
Oh, everybody watches this show, Coach. It's all over this.
So it's all over now. No, but I'm very, very proud of her, and I'm happy that she got that experience because she is going to be a really, really good player for us down the road. Counting on her for a lot. She's doing a great job right now. The spring, our strength and conditioning program is really making a difference for her.
Speaking of spring, something cool that you do during the spring is you offer other local young ladies like Jasmine Gannon a chance to learn more about the sport of volleyball.
Yeah,
it actually started last Sunday, but you've got 2 more clinics.
Yes, sir. So it's our April Sunday clinics, which started 4 years ago. You mentioned Ashley Rhodes, my former assistant. So for us, all our athletic teams, we're always trying to fundraise, to help supplement our budgets. It's $15 a player, which is not much, but for me, and I'm sure every coach for every sport is, you want to grow your sports. In our sport, club volleyball is huge, which we do not have in Portales. We have a small club in Clovis. But there's a lot of talent, a lot of great athletes here in Portales. So for me, it gives them, our kids to start young, because we start as young as second grade. Teach them all the basics, at least, introduce volleyball to them, show them that it's a fun, great sport, especially for our young ladies. And just like I said, just to grow the sport. My goal, I don't know how long I'm gonna be the coach here, but is to have club volleyball in the future, which is what we need, because we have so many great players, but if you're not playing club, unfortunately, we're behind compared to, kids throughout the country.
Coach, I would imagine that because we're going to be transitioning to an entirely different Lone Star Conference, next year it'd be nice to win the Lone Star Conference, as it has always been constituted.
Right, yes, you're exactly right. I mean, in 2019, we've got basically going to double the size, actually a little bit more than double. So it'll be, we're going through so many issues right now, and then that's starting up in the year, but it'll be interesting with a bigger conference.
Well, Coach, congratulations. It was great. I was just thrilled to death when I found out you, your wife, and your children were going to come back. And
thank you.
Let's hope that next year is that year we put another banner up atop Greyhound Arena.
Thank you very much, Doc.
All right. Well, that is going to wrap up the interview segment of Sportslook. So what we'll do is we'll clear the set, and I'll finish up with an overtime right now. The big off-season acquisition in Major League Baseball was the New York Yankees picking up Giancarlo Stanton, and it looked like a pretty good move on paper since he was the reigning MVP from the National League last year. How's he done in the pinstripes so far? Well, he's close to setting a record. Yeah, he's had 2 games where he struck out 5 times. The record for a season is 3. Stanton has already struck out 20 times as a Yankee. By contrast, the great Joe DiMaggio, the year that he had the 56-game hitting streak, only struck out 13 times all year. Clearly, as Simon and Garfunkel said in their classic song, Mrs. Robinson from 1967, where have you gone, Joe DiMaggio? Well, that is going to wrap up an overtime. That will wrap up an episode of Sportslook. I would like to thank my guests. I'd like to thank Brooklyn and Dylan for the high school spotlight. Had a brand new floor director, Mr. Dion, doing a great job for me tonight. So for those aforementioned people, this is Doc Elder saying, so long.